think motion designers are so versatile because a good motion designer knows how to design, they know how to animate, they know how to video edit, they can do the finishing edits. And in these days, there's such a blurring of the lines between like what's a video edit, what's motion graphics, because oftentimes videos have all those elements in it. So it's kind of like you need someone that can like kind of be a small one production studio who can do everything themselves, and motion designers are really the only ones who can do everything themselves. So, it's very cost beneficial to hire one motion person versus 3 people, a designer, a motion animator, and a video editor.
Hi, I'm Garret Brubaker, and this is the Creative Caucus. On this episode, I'm joined by Laura Porat, a motion designer, art director, the founder of Motion Collabs, and an absolute creative force behind campaigns for Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. We get into how her being deaf affects her creativity, how motion designers are becoming some of the most valuable people in politics, how sports graphics can inspire campaign creative, and how Laura balances political work with an impressive career in entertainment and design. We also talk about travel, 3D animation, accessibility, and why some of the best creative minds are the people who are forced to solve problems every day. Let's get into it. All right, Laura. Well, thank you so much for joining the Creative Caucus. I'm really excited to talk to you and pick your brain about some stuff.
Yeah, excited to talk to you, and happy to chat.
I'm going to read off kind of your bio that I pieced from different places online. So you are a 2D, 3D motion designer and art director, a GIF expert, a meme connoisseur. Your clients have included Netflix, TikTok, Planned Parenthood, and many more. You founded Motion Collabs. You've worked on Elizabeth Warren's 2020 presidential campaign, Biden's 2020 presidential campaign, and Harris's 2024 presidential campaign. Did I miss anything?
Nope, you got it. You covered everything.
Okay, so it looks like you have a pretty sweet office there. Do you have any favorite little pieces of art that you that inspire you that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of movies. So there's a bunch of horror movies. So you have Get Out right here, The Substance, A Clockwork Orange, and then above me, which you can't see, is Midsommar, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I would say I love horror movies in general. I think life is so horrific. But horror movies kind of provide an escape because, okay, there's a beginning, middle, and end, unlike real life, which just has no end. So I think it's a little bit cathartic in that aspect. So this inspires me.
What's your favorite horror movie?
I would have to say Midsommar. I just love the robes that they wear. I love the concept of being Sweden in the summertime. I think it just sounds wonderful. So
funny story about that is I watched Midsommar on recommendation from Becca DeVilla.
Yes, and that's her brand.
My wife is still mad at her about that because she hated that movie.
No. I mean, it's good to elicit such a strong response in your wife, though.
Yes. All right. So first question I ask people is, how did you get into politics? And I specifically wonder because you're such a very creative person, and there's not that many people, with your skill set that kind of go into politics. Kind of, how did you kind of get here to where you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I was never really a political person growing up, so my family is quite surprised when they found out that I was entering politics. But I would say I had 2 main political awakenings in the childhood. First was 2008 when Prop 8 was on the ballot, and that was to legalize gay marriage in California. And to me, it felt really obvious. Oh yeah, obviously this is a thing that should be legalized. But then there's a bunch of protesters outside the middle school where I went to in the high school, and they're very anti-gay marriage. And that was the first time in my life that I was oh wow, people do not agree with me on this. That was a little bit shocking. And then 2016 was the first presidential election that I had followed with interest. I went to a Bernie Sanders rally in Boston, and it was so much fun to be so energized by a huge crowd of people who were so excited and amped up for this guy. Obviously, I was disappointed when he didn't get the nomination, but I voted for Hillary. And then the night when the election results trickled in, I was realizing, oh wait, she's losing really badly. And so I shut off my computer. I went to sleep. I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up. She's gonna be the president. And guess what? That didn't happen. So in 2019, cut to 2019, I was working in the entertainment industry in LA. I was freelancing for like creative agencies. So mostly doing stuff like movie trailers, social media ads, like things regarding to Hollywood. And it was really fun, but I was like, my rabbits are being used to sell products, but I would love to do some good in the world. I would love to use my rabbits for some change. And that's when the Democratic primaries were happening. And I was sort of following them, and I really loved Elizabeth Warren because she had like kind of made a name for herself with the whole like Mitch McConnell telling her to stop speaking, and like nevertheless she persisted, sort of thing. So I reached out to one of the volunteers on the Warren campaign. I was like, hey, is there any way I could like volunteer my animation skills? I help out. And they kind of just directed me to a general like volunteer sign up form. And the form is like, can you host watch parties? Can you go knock on doors? And I'm like, that's not really what I'm trying to do here. So I was feeling a little bit demoralized. But then like a few weeks later, I saw the Warren campaign was hiring for a motion graphics designer. And I'm like, I feel like I manifested this somehow. Like, this is exactly what I want to. So I just applied to the job. I interviewed the creative director, and then they ghosted me for several months. So I was like, okay, guess I didn't get the job then. I was really disappointed. But then they eventually reached out to me. They're like, hey, I know it's been several months, but are you still interested? I was like, heck yes. So yeah, it's interesting when people ask me how I got into politics. I was like, I just applied for the job, but I was really enthusiastic, and I made it like well known, being like, I am very passionate about this person. I want to do whatever it takes to help them. So that's how I got there.
Yeah, that's what I say too. I was like, oh, I just applied, a job popped up and I just applied for it. I don't know anything about politics. At least you were a little bit more into politics than I was. So after her campaign ended, then you hopped onto the Biden campaign?
Yeah, pretty much. I had started working for a political PAC called Acronym after the Warren campaign ended. But then one of the video editors from the Warren campaign jumped ship to the Biden campaign, and she asked me, hey, do you know any motion designers that you could recommend, because we need more? And I thought about it for like an entire night, and then I reached out to her the next day. I'm like, hey, I would be interested in working on the Biden campaign. It was a little bit difficult for me because he was not one of my first choices in the primary campaign. But I was like, he's going to be the Democratic candidate. I need to support him. My goal was like to beat Donald Trump. So like if it meant working for Joe Biden, I was on board. So yeah, that's how I got into the Biden campaign.
Yeah, you're a team player. We love that.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to like remove your ego and like your thought process and just think about like the greater good, which I think is my mentality.
Yeah. Anything. I had that a couple of times where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this just because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we all just want to defeat Donald Trump, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
Are you like, so then did you have such a good experience with that you then wanted to pop onto the 2024? Did you jump onto the campaign while Biden was still running in 24, or was it Harris?
Yeah, I joined when Biden was still the candidate. Yeah, that was quite an interesting time with the whole switchover. Yes. Like, hey, one day you have a boss, and then the next day, oh, they're not your boss anymore.
But what did you do in between those, the 20 and 24?
Yeah, so I had a really good time on the 2020 campaign with Biden. But then it's so exhausting to be part of a political campaign. Like, you're working 18-hour days, you're working weekends, you have to be on call at all times. So after the campaign ended, I went back to freelancing. I took a few months off. I was like, I want to travel. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then in the meantime, I was like freelancing between like entertainment, tech, and political clients, because politics is very cyclical. So every 2 years, you'll have a bunch of work. And then in the off years, there's no work. So I would focus more on like entertainment or like tech companies such as like TikTok, for example. And then during the election years, that's where I would shift more into politics. So that was a really good route for me to get into. And then around when, 2024 is coming around, I knew that I wanted to be on the then Biden campaign. And I started out as a motion designer on like both the Warren and Biden campaigns, but I knew I wanted to like kind of go through the levels of leadership a bit. So I knew that they would need like someone in charge of the video team. So I started networking. I was contacting the old people from the Biden campaign. They hired her director, Kate Conway. I had an intro call with her. Kevin Dreyfus, who was the video director of the Biden campaign. I contacted him and I was like, hey, I want to get back in the field. Like, I'm happy to do whatever, but this is specifically what I'm looking for to be like more of a leadership management position. So yeah, they ended up hiring me. I was in charge of the motion graphics team. So I got to hire and like grow the team as I wanted.
How did that? So that's you got some experience on your belts when you come back for round two. You get more of a management leadership role.
Exactly.
So you got to like build out a whole team and everything.
I did, yeah. It was very difficult when Joe Biden was a candidate because I was emailing like every single motion designer I knew, and no one wanted to be part of the campaign, or they wanted to be part of the campaign, but one of the requirements was you had to move to Wilmington, Delaware, which no offense to the people of Wilmington, but it's not the most bustling city. Housing was very scarce and hard to find, so it was actually more expensive to live in Wilmington than like New York City, where you could buy like a cheap sublet, for example. So there's a lot of aspects that played into that factor, but I ended up hiring 3 people to be part of the motion team, and then throughout the way, I acquired 2 people. So by the end of the campaign, I can't do math, but you add that up.
Yeah. So your team was just in charge of doing all motion stuff.
Yeah. So we were under the video team umbrella, and part of my role in the motion graphics team was I'd be the bridge between the design team and the video team. So I'd be in constant communication with the design team in terms of like the branding, the colors, the typography, all that sort of thing. And then sometimes my motion designers are great, but sometimes they didn't have like the best sensibilities when it came to like type. And that's something that Kate Conway in particular was very passionate about. So we would sometimes enlist the help of the design team to do like the layouts for us, and then we would animate it. And then we would also enlist the help of the other people in the video team to help us with like sound design and the finishing edit. So my team was like truly the most collaborative team because we were constantly working with other teams, but then we're also working very well together. Like one person would start a project and then maybe they would get busy with another project, so then someone else would take over their project. So we're like constantly exchanging projects back and forth. That's why it was really important for me to instill like, hey, you need to name your layers, you need to have proper file management, like all of these things.
Oh, you would hate me.
Oh, really? Do you not name your files?
I name my files. My folder organization is great, but my After Effects organization is not great.
See, I would name and shame you. I would bring up your After Effects file in front of the projector, be like, "This is how you could do it better."
Yeah, it's and that we'll get to like politics timeline later. But I saw you made a post about how every campaign should hire an army of motion designers. Is that like your campaign philosophy? Which I absolutely agree with. Yes, I stand by it. I think motion designers are so versatile because a good motion designer knows how to design, they know how to animate, they know how to video edit, they can do the finishing edits. And in these days, there's such a blurring of the lines between like what's a video edit, what's motion graphics, because oftentimes videos have all those elements in it. So it's kind of like, is this going to be more of a video heavy edit that needs a video editor that knows like the technical like know-how, or is it more like animated pieces and there's like important text on screen that you need to be able to
to read. So then that's where more of a motion graphics person would come in. And in politics, with such condensed timelines, you really don't have time to like wait for the designer to finish designing to give you the assets. So then you give it to the video editor to do the finishing. You need someone that can like kind of be a small one production studio who can do everything themselves, and motion designers are really the only ones who can do everything themselves. So, you know, it's very cost beneficial to hire one motion person versus 3 people, a designer, a motion animator, and a video editor.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, you know, when I talk to people about like career paths or whatever, it's like the time of just like a person that just edits in a linear editor, you know, like unless you're going to Hollywood and cutting movies, it's like that is long gone. You got to have, you know, motion skills. You got to have design skills. You got to have audio skills. That's kind of the
100%. One person I worked with at an agency, political agency, he still used Avid, so no one else could touch his files except for him. And I'm like, this is not a Hollywood production. Like, you need to be working in Premiere. Your files need to be easily accessed by everyone else. So that was quite shocking.
Speaking of software, I saw that you have started to do a lot of stuff in like Cavalry. I have no experience in that. So what can you like? What do you like about that? What does it do better? How does it help with your workflow?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Cavalry is a 2D animation program that's similar to After Effects, but it's more procedural. So it's kind of like Houdini, except for 2D motion graphics. So the nice thing about Cavalry is I can create like one piece and then easily like version out into like 20 different like aspect ratios, or even swap out the text or the colors like super easily. So it's very scalable among like different sizings and different elements. Like if you're doing like banner ads on the internet and they have to be all these like weird aspect ratios, instead of like manually resizing everything that what you would have to do in After Effects, like you can set up certain parameters in Cavalry and you like do the rest. And, you know, in terms of like data visualization, you can link it to a CSV sheet and then put in all the data into the CSV sheet and then build out the graph in Cavalry, and then Cavalry will automatically pull from that spreadsheet, which is really useful because in politics, so many times we made graphs and we'll give it to the research team for like their feedback, and they're like, hey, this data is actually outdated, or you were pulling from the wrong elements, or this and that. So then you have to redo it in After Effects. You have to like redraw everything. In Cavalry, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that problem because you're just pulling from the spreadsheet. So you just change the numbers in the spreadsheet, and then Cavalry did the rest for you. So it's a very powerful program.
Did you get to use any of Cavalry on any of your campaign work?
Not yet. I was still in the process of learning it on the Harris campaign, and none of my motion designers knew how to use it. So
yeah. Did you learning things? How did you get your skill set? Did you go to school for it? Did you teach it all yourself off YouTube?
Yeah, I went to a film school called Emerson College in Boston, and I was a general film major, but then I specialized in animation. So I took film classes and I took animation classes. But the animation classes were in 3D, so we learned Autodesk Maya. And so one day I kind of just picked up After Effects by myself, and I started watching YouTube tutorials. I watched a bunch of video co-pilots videos, and I really self-taught myself After Effects. And the nice thing about going to film school is everyone's working on their own student films, and they all need like title sequences, they need a lower third, that sort of thing. So I was the only one who knew After Effects, and then everyone would come to me and be like, hey, Laura, I need this thing or I need that thing. So that combined with like a few internships in film school, I was able to graduate with a really good portfolio, and I decided motion graphics was my passion. That's something I wanted to pursue, not like traditional like Pixar, Disney animation. Like that was never something I was really that good at. But I really liked how versatile motion graphics was. I love working with like different styles. So yeah, I would say I'm mostly self-taught at this point.
Yeah. And so you are deaf, correct?
Yeah.
And we're working in such a visual medium. Has that like helped, hindered, or any like obstacles you had to overcome with that? Yeah,
so I'm deaf. I wear cochlear implants. I've been deaf since I was born. And I would say disabled people in general are very creative people because we live in the world where nothing is like set up or built with us in mind. So we constantly have to learn how to adjust to like different challenges and, places not being accommodating. So I would say like part of why I'm so creative now is because I'm so used to being given challenge after challenge. I'm like, okay, well, any challenge that comes my way, like no problem. I can tackle that so easily. And then in terms of like my animation workflow, I would say I really design in mind with like text and like visuals, but I'm not so concerned on sound. I never animate with sound in the forefront of my mind, which is kind of a good thing for me these days because a lot of people like scroll through Instagram or like TikTok and have the sound off. So like a lot of it is like captions on screen. So I think it's good for me to like be like visual first, so then you know how to like capture people's attention, and then the sound can kind of be a secondary element. I do agree like sound is a very important element, but like just because I'm deaf, I'm just never thinking about sound in mind.
Yeah, so you just pump the visuals up 110%.
Exactly. Yeah. So attention grabbing, what do I want to see, and then I do that, and then typically other people agree with me.
Yeah. You mentioned you traveled a lot, and I saw you've been to like 40 countries. Explain, like, I think it's obvious, travel, you pick up things everywhere and it inspires you creatively. Is that kind of, and that's not why you travel, but kind of explain how travel plays into your design skill set.
Yeah, I love to travel. I think my family growing up was always big proponents of travel. So I was instilled in that to me at a very young age. And yeah, I just like traveling to like different countries, experiencing different cultures. I think also working in politics is really important for me to like connect personally with different people from different backgrounds and like understand like where they're coming from, like what their thought process is. And it's something
God forbid you connect with people from other backgrounds.
God forbid. Just talk to people. Imagine such a thing. But yeah, so I've been to India, for example, and like India is like the hue saturation value slider. It's like 100. It's like cranked up the saturation all the way 100% because it's such a colorful and like vibrant place. Like the clothes that everyone wears is so colorful and fun. The food is amazing. So just to be able to like see a culture that's like so rich, like creatively and like the food and the people, I try to bring a lot of the elements to that in my work and just make it really fun, colorful, vibrant. And then I studied Mandarin in high school, so I've been to China a few times, and, people in China are so lovely, so welcoming, so kind. The food there is amazing. So, yeah, I'm just very fortunate to, like, be able to travel so often to so many different and cool, interesting countries, and I try to incorporate that into my work wherever I can.
Do you work on the road? Like take a laptop or a system or something?
Yeah, I mean, not currently because I work a full-time job, but back when I was freelance, I did the whole like digital nomad thing where I was in Asia for 6 months. So I was in Thailand for a month, Vietnam for another month, and so on. So the nice thing about being an animator is the only thing you need is internet access and your laptop. And I have a MacBook Pro M2 chip, which is very powerful and it allows me to work wherever I can. And the type of work I do is more 2D heavy rather than 3D. I do use some 3D in my work, but I work in more of a cartoony style, so I'm never requiring like really heavy 3D procedural or like realistic stuff. So I know how to work within the limitations of traveling with a laptop only.
And talking about your 3D stuff, I mean, you're the person that I look at a lot, and I get imposter syndrome because I'm like, like some of this, like just to like fan out, like your stuff is so good. Your stuff is so creative. It's so like your style is so. I mean, you don't really have. I mean, you kind of have a style, but you can do any style too. And I love one thing I wish I could do is 3D stuff, which I've never like taken the time to actually learn. So talk about kind of like your 3D stuff and how that how you go about creating that stuff. I know a lot of your 3D stuff isn't technically political stuff, but you sent some stuff we can kind of touch on. But what's it like making 3D stuff?
It's so much fun. I mean, one of my favorite movies ever was Toy Story. So I've always wanted to grow up and like create something like Toy Story. And I think that's really influenced my 3D work, because I would describe my style as kind of like a final toy, like 3D cartoon characters. I love to create these like busts of people that I've seen like throughout my travels. So like if you look at my Instagram, there's an Indian guy like wearing a turban, for example, and that was inspired by an actual person that I saw in India. I was like, wow, I really love his style. I make it into 3D. So I'm just very influenced by the world around me, and like taking note of like really interesting people and being like, hey, I'm going to capture you from my own memory. So the 3D work I do is in Blender. I started out using Autodesk Maya and Cinema 4D, but Blender is free. There's a wonderful community out there with so many tutorials and resources. And right now I'm making a short film in Blender just in 3D. I just love being able to like manipulate the camera and being able to adjust the lighting as I want. It's kind of like being on the film set, and you have complete and total control over everything. And the nice thing is, it's just me. I'm not working with a whole set of people. This is why I'm in animation and not in film production.
Yes, that's what I say too, man. I've been on sets and stuff, and that's just too stressful for me.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. It's a lot.
And so you sent a couple of like the 3D things that you guys did on the campaign. Do you want to talk about making those? And then you said you had some ideas on how you can incorporate more 3D stuff into the political workflow.
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit, but it's hard to do 3D animations in the political world just because of how fast-paced the environment is. Also, being able to incorporate edits from the legal and communications and research teams, because even though they might approve your scripts and visuals like every step of the way, invariably when you send out the final video for approval, there's always someone who's never seen it before, and then they're like, wait, why are we using this information? Why are we presenting it this way? So then everything has to be changed. So with the football videos that I sent over, a motion designer on my team named Tagori did those. He did those in Cinema 4D, and those videos were localized for each of the battleground states. So they were shown in Arizona, Wisconsin, etc. And so not only does he have to make one 3D video, which already takes a lot of time to render, but he has to make videos for each of the battleground states. I can't remember how many there were, but like 5 to 7 states, which, render time times 7, that's a lot of rendering time. So that's like part of the limitations of why we can't do more 3D work, just because it's so time consuming to wait around for something to finish rendering, and then also incorporating the notes. Also, an interesting thing with the football videos is they wanted each of the videos to have a different color representing the different states, but then we got into a whole kind of shit show, especially like Pennsylvania, because like which color do you use, because it can't be too close to the Steelers, but it can't be too close to the Eagles. So then you have like this unintentional consequence of like dealing with these like hyper like state specific stuff that like I'm from California, I don't follow football at all. I'm like, it was such a headache.
But you don't want to make the Steelers fans mad or vice versa. Yeah,
and then the news headline is like, why does Kamala Harris hate the Steelers?
So for that football video, like I have no idea, and if you don't remember, that's okay. But like, how long did that take to render?
I don't know on the top of my head, a few hours at least. Okay, I know Tagori would like set it to render overnight, so he would leave the office to render, and then he would come back in the morning to it'll be finished.
And it's a 6-second video.
It's a 6-second video. Like animation takes a long time, especially 3D animation. But thankfully for tools like Blender or like Unreal, stuff that have real-time render engines, this rendering process can be sped up a lot more quickly, because with a real-time render engine, basically what you preview is going to be almost identical to your final export. So as long as you get it looking nice within Blender, you hit render and it should take like a few seconds per frame max. So really optimizing our 3D graphics, even though it won't look as realistic as using cycles. In Tagori's case, I believe he used Redshift, which is a render engine in Cinema 4D that creates these really nice photoreal look. And the videos look great, but like, let's accept we need a little bit more of a less realistic look, maybe a little bit more cartoony, but then just be able to render it out quickly. So technology advancements have been made, in the past few years regarding that.
Do you feel like AI or anything will help at all? Is that a dirty word for you?
Yeah. AI is certainly an interesting conversation happening in the political field because a lot of campaigns have banned AI. They will not allow us to use it. And I do agree with them to a certain point. However, to your point, I think, AI is capable of making 3D assets. So instead of modeling a tree individually or buying a modeling website, we could use AI to generate the background visuals while we create the more important visuals ourselves. So I think AI is a tool that we should utilize, but we should also use it carefully. And I would never use AI to create someone's face or someone's likeness. I think that's a line we shouldn't cross. But for the background visuals, 100%.
Do you use that? Do you use any AI stuff at all in your current workflow?
I've been trying to incorporate AI more into my workflow. I guess the problem I'm facing is AI was not created by creative people, so it really fails in the workflow regards. I'm curious if you have any case of it in your workflow, but for me, I would love to be able to give AI a 16:9 video and it automatically resizes for every single sizing, and AI cannot do that yet. So I'm kind of well, what are you good for?
Yeah. The more you work with it, the more you realize that it's just really dumb.
Yeah, it's really dumb. I mean, it's trained off of humans, so I guess humans are dumb.
Yeah. Crap in, crap out.
That's a wonderful expression.
As far as, you said you did a lot of, you kind of go through cycles of non-political and political work. What's the biggest difference for people that don't know, between doing political stuff and between doing something for Netflix or a corporation like that?
Yeah, people are really shocked when they enter a political campaign and they're there is so much red tape. You would not believe the amount of red tape that you have in campaigns. A political campaign is kind of a political campaign within itself. You have to deal with all the office politics within the building, and then you have to deal with creating stuff outside of your office building. So it's a very interesting dynamic there. But yeah, in terms of when I hired my motion designers on the Harris campaign, it was really interesting to see how they adapted because I had been doing politics for so long, and this was all their first political campaigns. So I'm okay, when making the video, you need to source each image and you have to make sure they're in America only. You would not believe the amount of incredible stocks assets that we can't use because they're filmed in Russia or somewhere. Every asset needs to be America only. What else? The amount of rounds of approval you need from legal, comms, research. And I mentioned this before, but you could submit your scripts for approval every step of the way, and then at the end you make the video, and then they're haha, oh, this is wrong, change everything. So then you have re-record, you have to redesign the assets, that sort of thing. So that's another hurdle. And then politics is very, very fast paced, so you only have a day or two to make the video. You really have to be really fast, efficient. You need to know the shortcuts. You need to have a library of assets that you can easily pull from, animation presets, all these things to help improve your workflow, because you can't start from scratch every single time. You need a good foundation because politics really relies a lot a lot on the news cycle. And like once something's out of the news, it's just not relevant anymore. So you have to be able to keep up in that aspect. So a lot of people are really shocked that politics is really long hours, insanely fast turnarounds, all the different like variables in mind. And then, you know, on the campaign, you got to work like 6-7 days a week. Like that's how it is. There's no such thing as a good work-life balance when you're working on the political campaign. Like I fought for better working conditions on the Harris campaign because I was like working 7 days a week when it's like June or July, we're just gonna be burnt out come September and October. And guess what? Like my team was burnt out come September and October. Like September and October are like the two most important months. And so that's because that's when people actually start paying attention. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we're making videos in June, but no one's really paying attention then. So it's like, don't force us to work every single day of the week in June where it doesn't actually matter. That's just my philosophy.
Yeah. And then you go and you make something for Netflix and it's like, all right, we need this back in like 2 months and we'll get you notes back when we get you notes back.
Exactly. Like 2 rounds of feedback. Okay, looks great. Send it, ship it.
Yeah. Okay, so you sent some stuff over. I kind of wanted to go over, give you a chance to kind of like show and tell some of your things. And we can start back at the beginning. You sent over the toaster video about from the Warren campaign. So kind of walk me through how this thing came about. I guess my first question is, did you design all these assets, or did you like have like a designer or something help you with these?
Yeah, the toaster video, I worked with Race on the design team, and Race is the one who did the illustrations for it. So she has a really wonderful style. And then I worked with Mike on the video team, who helped with the sound design and finishing elements. And then I was responsible for the animation, and then I helped storyboard it out.
I mean, this is a long animated video for a campaign. What was the turnaround for this one?
It was long. I think I had like 2 weeks to work on it. And it was pretty cool because since I helped write part of the script, I have video. I have a video of Elizabeth Warren like in the closet somewhere, and she's like talking to her phone, like doing the voiceover. And I was like, oh, she's reading the words I wrote out loud.
Yeah. Where was her? Did you have to move for her campaign too?
Yeah, I had to move to Boston.
It was in Boston.
Yeah. It was her campaign headquarters was in the factory warehouse in Charleston. Mm. Yeah, so we were set in this like dark windowless corner in the middle of the warehouse, and it's like all these like plastic tables and like plastic chairs. And, you know, you watch The West Wing and you think, wow, it's going to be like so cool. It's going to be like the oak tables and everyone's going to be wearing a suit or whatever. And then you enter the office of the Warren campaign. It's like kind of like a frat party, like it's the day after the frat party and they're like still kind of setting things up. It was strange.
I feel that. We talked about with the Pete team, the first office that we had was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing you sent over was your social media reel for Joe Biden, which, I mean, you had a lot of stuff in here. Anything in particular stand out that you're proud of? A couple things I want to touch on, but I'll let you go first. Yeah,
so that reel is kind of like a compilation of everything I did for the Biden campaign because I did so much. And I think the Biden campaign, since it was fully remote because it's in the middle of the pandemic, so we really could not film that much. So that's why motion graphics was more important than ever, because we can still tell stories about Joe Biden or like what he stood for and stuff, but he didn't actually have to be in every single video, which was really nice. So I did stuff, like data visualizations. I did stuff like Instagram stories. I did stuff like explainer videos, and then we partnered with a lot of really cool artists. So one of the stuff that we did was kind of an explainer video, but then this really cool artist, I drew a picture correlating with each line of dialogue in that video, and we filmed it, and I edited it together. I worked with the artists to figure out like the visuals for each part of the script.
Is that this top-down handmade type of one? Yeah, I was going to ask about that too. So you guys like cut all that stuff out and then just kind of filmed it and did like a tactile animated video?
Exactly. And it was challenging because we couldn't go to the artist's house because everyone's in quarantine. So we had to send her like really specific instructions on how to like film everything, how to like have her camera like laid out. And she did such an amazing job. And to my point about having stuff approved by legal and comms and whatever, she did have to redo one segment because one part of the video was not approved at the end. And we're like, why didn't you flag this earlier?
Yeah.
So kudos to that artist. I can't remember what her name was, but she was so awesome.
I love doing stuff like this, and you're right. You don't get a lot of opportunities because you always have to build things in a way that they can change later. So when you're actually filming something that you've actually made in real life, you got to make sure it's right the first time.
Yeah, it's very ambitious.
I noticed like a lot of Biden stuff, you did a lot of text incorporated into video. You like with like masking it out or like putting it in foreground, background elements. It kind of like, how did that idea come about, or that style come about?
Yeah, I worked closely with John Heber, who had the idea of doing the text integrated with the video footage, and I thought it was super genius because it's a way of being like, this is how your real life is affected by politics and the price of a milk carton or the price of groceries or whatever. So making that be as part of the footage just makes it feel more real. So that was really, really fun. And it was a fun like compositing exercise for me to like make it look as realistic as possible, matching the shadows, matching the colors and stuff. So, you know, I'm a motion designer, but I'm also a VFX artist. So that was really fun.
Yeah, that's what I say too. I love that type of look. The other thing on here was I'm curious about like the AR assets and stuff that you did like for like Instagram, Snapchat. How do you create those? How do those work?
Yeah, so there used to be an app, which I think is defunct now, but it's called Spark AR. And it was the AR app for making Instagram filters. And so, the Biden campaign truly was like, if you have an idea, like, let's do it. There's no such thing as too little content. We need as much content. So I was like, well, I want to learn how to make Instagram filters. I know how to do this thing. And this was like back in the day where like those quizzes were really popular. So I made an Instagram filter. It's like, which Joe Biden are you? And it like cycled through a bunch of images and, you know, it lands on one, okay, you're Joe Biden with the sunglasses or you're Joe Biden holding ice cream. So this is fun and silly, and like everyone's locked up with the pandemic, so they might as well use the Instagram filter. So it was fun.
Yeah. Have you found a new way to do that after that app is no longer around?
Yeah, it's not around anymore. I know TikTok has their own version of the app, but in 2020 we were not allowed to use TikTok like on our personal phones and stuff because of like the data security reasons. We didn't attempt it again on the Harris campaign. There's just wasn't enough time because we only had 100 days to like make stuff for her. So it was like, go.
Yeah, you really had to pick and choose what you did.
Yeah.
So jumping to the Harris campaign, you sent the 100 days Kamala video. What? Give me the story behind that one.
Yeah. So when she joined the race, we had 107 days to elect her as president. So the 100 days video is the first thing that we fully produce ourselves on the campaign with like her as the film subject. And this is when her branding was still in flux. We had no idea what her design and like motion voice was like because that had already been established for the Biden campaign because, you know, he had run for 2 times. So his style was more established. It's more of kind of more of like more elegant feeling, like slower movements, smooth movements. But with Kamala, we had not decided any of that yet. We didn't really know how we wanted to present her as a candidate. So it was really challenging for me as a motion designer to be like, okay, how do I animate this? So that video was filmed the day before it was due. So we got the footage on the 101st day. I worked with Elisa, who was the video editor, and we're going back and forth, like figuring how to do the video edit and also how to do the motion graphics. And I was like, I'm really inspired by sports videos, like basketball videos, that really hype style. So I was like, you know what? we have 100 days. Let's make this as hype as possible. Let's make it as visually striking as possible. So there's a lot of like back and forth of like Elisa handed me the video footage. I would manipulate it. I like rotoscope it. I'd do the elements behind the screen. I just made the rapids like super large, super flashy, super in your face, so be as attention grabbing as possible. And we worked all night on this. I think we delivered the video at like 5 a.m. and it was like posted at 7 a.m. So that's how tight of a turnaround it was, because we didn't get the footage until like 3 p.m. the day before. And that video really helped decide the motion voice for the rest of the campaign. Like, we kept that element of like sports graphics. I just talked about the football video. Like, I think sports was our big theme of the Harris campaign, just being like attention grabbing, hype. We want people to be energized for Kamala. So,
yeah. And I always say, if you want to be a good like political motion designer, watch a lot of like sports, like hype, not like hype videos, but like the intros and outros and stuff, like when they're coming out of commercials break, it's all like big text and flashing through and stuff. So there's a lot of crossover there. And I watch a lot of, I watch a lot of football. So I always try to incorporate that when I can.
Exactly. You know where it's at.
The next one was the race to the ballot box, which is a really cool, like parallax, going through all these images. Tell me about that edit.
Yeah, so I saw a video on Instagram that had that similar concept of like a parallax video, and I sent it to one of my motion designers, Cavalry, and I was like, hey, you're really good at 3D, like, make this video with this style, and we're going to incorporate all the different frames of Kamala and all of her supporters. It was like a culmination of everything we had done at the campaign at that point. Just being like, we traveled to so many different states. We met so many different people. We got to achieve all of these things. So it was very much like a culmination of everything the campaign had worked for. And I'm super proud of that video because it was a true team effort. Like, everyone on the motion graphics team worked on that video. Like, Tagorio was like the lead animator. We're all helping him like cut out the videos. We're helping him like source assets and images. And like, everyone works their asses off for this video. So like, you might watch that video and be like, it's just a parallax video. It's just people like moving through the camera. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it took so much time and effort. But yeah, I'm really proud of how that video
Nobody
turned
knows
out.
the blood, sweat, and tears that go into some of these things that you just, whatever.
Yeah, you need to appreciate the behind the scenes. You have to appreciate how long it took us.
Yes, yeah. So did you guys all have like a little clump in the office or whatever that you guys all worked in and worked together?
Yeah, we had our own motion graphics corner at the far end of the office, away from all the windows. Apparently, on political campaigns, they're really allergic to windows.
Oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah. And I'm sure that was the place to be. That was the coolest corner.
We were the party corner. Everyone wanted to be where we were.
The other one you sent was the Never Trump guy, JD Vance video. And that, like you said, played on a moving billboard outside DC before the vice presidential debates. So talk about how that kind of came about.
Yeah, so one of the things I love to do in motion graphics is it doesn't just have to be one thing, or it doesn't have to exist just on the internet. Like, it can be out there in the real world. So that video was quite interesting because I was getting the information very piecemeal. By piecemeal, I was told, okay, you're making a music video. I was like, about what? They're like, okay, it's for the vice presidential debate. Okay, give me more information. I'm making a music video. And then I think they wanted to be like a 1 minute music video, like trolling JD fans. So I'm like, okay, you're giving me no information whatsoever, but I guess I'll come up with something. And then they gave me the soundtrack because an artist online had made a song, like remix it, and they had been in contact with him, and he was like, yeah, here you go, like, use the song. And then I find out the specifications for this billboard. The truck can only handle 10 seconds worth of footage. So all of a sudden we're going from like a 1 minute long music video to a 10-second music video. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do whatever and hope this works out. But it was truly the weirdest way I've ever gotten the video assignment, where I was given like information one at a time and I just had to like make something. But it was so much fun. And yeah, it was playing on the mobile billboard truck, and it drove around where the vice presidential debate was happening, and it just played it on loop over and over and over. So I felt really bad for that truck driver being forced to just listen to this 10-second song snippets over and over and over.
So it played the audio too, and on the car, the truck.
Yeah, it played the audio too. So, but yeah, it was so funny to use Shady Pants' words against his own, and yeah.
So you mentioned, being a motion designer, you get to sometimes see your work not just on a digital like internet screen. I saw that you posted something that you had a little thing play in Times Square. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was really fun. I think, as an animator, I have a bucket list of like certain things I want to do, like make a music video, I guess a mobile billboard truck, but then like Times Square animation is like one of those things that everyone wants to do because it's in Times Square is like the advertising capital of the world, basically. So that was also a rush project. I literally woke up on Saturday morning to a text being like, "Hey, we need a Times Square animation. It's due Monday. Are you free?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess I can do it."
I wanted my dream, but not like this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh no. And it was a really complicated animation too because they want to incorporate the building's like design into the animation. So the animation's a bunch of like text falling on top of the actual physical windows of the building. So that requires actual physics to interact with the objects. So After Effects is not the fastest program when doing this. So I was like, it's the same forever as a preview in After Effects. I've been learning Cavalry. I guess I will use Cavalry for this. So, I'm not as great in Cavalry as I am in After Effects. So now I'm like Googling a bunch of things like while being really panicked. But eventually I figured out. So I had to build up a schematic of the building, draw in the windows, and then I had the text, like a particle physics simulation of the text, like bouncing against these fake windows. And that's how I was able to get the physics there. And then I brought in the animation back to After Effects for the compositing because they wanted it to feel like code. And Cavalry doesn't have a great compositing editor yet. So it's a combination of After Effects and Cavalry for this.
That's really cool. Yeah. It's amazing how chaotic things like that can get. So I think I mentioned this in your intro that you founded Motion Collabs. Tell listeners what Motion Collabs is and what you guys do.
Yeah, Motion Collabs is an online motion graphics community. We've been running for over 8 years. And basically what happens is around 3 or 4 times a year, we'll send out a brief being like, hey, we're making a music video, or hey, we're making title sequences. Hey, we're doing this project. Anyone is totally welcome to join this project. And typically per collab, we'll have like 30 to 40 people each from around the world to participate in this. And it's very, as the name suggests, it's very collaborative. It's a great way for artists who never would have usually met or interacted with each other to like come together and like share their specific vision for a project, like bring their own unique voice to it. So I love it. It's been a huge honor running it. And then also we've been transitioning more into holding physical events. So I hosted events in New York back in February, and it was like an IRL Exquisite Corpse where we have 5 computers and 5 completely random animators, and we had a word on the screen that they did not know beforehand. So it's kind of like animation improv happening, and they have 5 minutes, so we're under section, and then their buzzer goes off, and then they have to switch to the next person's computer next to them and then take over the last person's project. And then we did it a few times, and then we stitched together all the videos, and then we projected it. So, a collab in real time, in person. So it was really fun.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Is that online somewhere? Did you post the finals of those?
I did not post the finals. I should, but we're hosting the same event again in June in San Francisco for San Francisco Design Week. We just got approved for it, so I'm super excited to host the same event. So if anyone's listening to this and they're in San Francisco, come join our event.
That is so cool. That is cool. And I love following along the Motion Collab stuff. You guys are so creative. One of these days I'll get in when I have time.
Come join. We want you.
So you started that 8 years ago. How many members are there now?
Our Discord server has over 1,000 members.
Nice.
Yeah, so not too shabby.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So what are you doing now?
Right now, I work full-time at a political agency called Assemble the Agency. They help work on campaigns, but then they also help like social advocacy and stuff like teacher unions, labor unions, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a continuation of the work that I've been doing the past few years, but in the full-time role at an agency.
So 2028 rolls around. Do you have that fire in your belly to hop back on another campaign or?
100%.
Yeah.
Call me up. I'm there. I mean, it depends who the candidate is. If there's
I think there'll be a lot. So
yeah.
You should have your pick of the litter, depending on who you want to work for.
Elizabeth Warren? No, I'm just kidding. I also like working on my own like personal side projects. So it's nice having the full-time gig, and then I can spend my extra hours outside work doing my own thing, like running motion collabs, or I'm working on a short film now. So I'm really enjoying that like separation between work and personal life, because on the campaign that doesn't exist. So I'm really
yeah, 5 o'clock. I'm turning my phone off.
yeah. I had that mentality.
Yeah, that's great. Get your R&R time.
Exactly.
What is your short film about?
Oh,
or is it still like in the works?
Yeah. It's based off of my own high school experiences. It's about these two girls who are slackers in school, but then they decide to join a rocket building competition. So it's kind of like Napoleon Dynamite sort of humor, and it's like focused on these two friendship between these two girls. So I'm really excited for it. It's gonna be in the low poly 3D style. So a nice excuse to open a blender and do my thing.
Well, I can't wait to see that. You mentioned like goals, and that a lot of motion designers and stuff have Times Square, etc. Do you have, if you could do like a Super Bowl commercial for like a political candidate or something, do you have like a spot that like nobody could tell you no? Do you have an idea that you have always wanted to do? Or something like on the campaign that you wanted to do that like you never actually got to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, on the campaign, we had written a script for this fully 3D video, and how I would describe it is it kind of would have been like the Game of Thrones opening, where we would go from like different locations to different locations. So it was a really ambitious video, hence why it was never done. But maybe if I had an army of 3D designers on the next campaign, that would be possible.
Yeah, just hire one guy and say, all right, you sit over here for 2 months and make this video.
I think literally that's what would happen.
Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Laura. I mean, do you have anything else you want to share? Any other things going on in your work, or anything that you're working on? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I would say it's just kind of like to other motion designers or like creatives out there. Like, I know the world's like in a scary place right now, but like you are able to use your creative talents for good. Like, I joined a political campaign, but that's not the only like outlet or venue that you can focus your creative works on. Like, it's really about like connecting with your local communities, like making videos that like educate people about different issues. I think people really want information now more than ever, but there's like so much information out there. So how you like break through the pack, and it's like motion graphics is a great way to like distinguish yourself. It's a great way to like do good in the world. So I kind of just want to throw that out there, like use your animation for good, like you can do it. And then in terms of plugs, follow Motion Collabs. We're open to anyone. You don't need to be a motion designer. You can be a designer, video editor, a producer. We have some sound people there. Like, we need more sound people in general. So come join. It's a fun time. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's been so much fun.
Of course. I love that. Use your animation for good. I'm going to clip that. That'll be a little...
That'll be the tagline.
That'll be a little tagline. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Creative Caucus. Huge thanks to Laura for giving such an honest look at the reality of political creative. From overnight turnarounds and campaign chaos to building systems, leading teams, and still finding ways to make genuinely great work under pressure. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you like, subscribe, follow across all social media platforms at the Creative Caucus. for more deep dives with strategists, editors, and creatives behind the work you see every day. And if you know someone who would be good on the show or have a campaign ad you want me to talk about or break down, send it my way. Leave a comment. My favorite thing Laura said during our interview at the end there was, use your animation for good. So if there's one thing you remember from this conversation, let it be that. Until next time, keep the vibes up because that's what people vote on.